Okay, we are recording. So, welcome to our Nursing 310 Nutrition. We have with us today Melissa and Teresa. So, welcome. So, Melissa and Teresa, at any time that you can't hear me, or I know that Teresa is down in the chat screen. So, Melissa, if at any time you can't hear me, please type in the chat room that you can't hear me. Or if I'm going along talking and you need to ask me a question or you need to stop me, just stop me right away. Don't wait for a break. Just chime in and stop me along the way. Does that sound like a deal?
Yep.
Okay. So my name is Sheila Mady, and I have been with Eaglegate for a little while now, and my background is in nursing education. I have been in the clinical field for 25 years of nursing, bedside nursing. My specialty is pediatrics and neonatal ICU. I've done some ICU. I've done flight nursing. I have done oncology, child adolescent psychiatry, med-surg. Never done labor and delivery, but wouldn't mind holding those little babies, but do not want to be there when they're being born. Other than that, I live in Montana. I teach online, so I live in very central located Montana, actually Great Falls, Montana. And we have had the luxury of having the president here speaking today. So he is speaking while I am speaking to you guys. And so we were able to see Air Force One come in, and we were able to see the motorcade, but there was such a long line to get in that I'm like, nope, and thank goodness I'm busy. So any questions you have for me, Melissa or Teresa, before we get started?
No, I think I've had you before as a teacher.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. I hope that was good.
Well, last time I wasn't able to get onto this conference, but yeah, okay. I broke my foot, so therefore I'm not working now.
Oh, wow. Holy moly, Batman. Oh, that's no fun. That takes a while to heal too, I hear, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm 6 weeks post-surgery, so hopefully I'll be able to bear weight soon.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So what you'll see up is, and for those of you who could not join us today, you will, once I close this meeting out or this conference out, I will get a link and I will share that in your announcements section, and you will be able to watch the video just as Melissa and Teresa are actually participating in today. And so I want to thank you all so very much for being here today. So first up, you can see the home screen. And so the goal today is to go over the course, go into each of the different areas of Canvas, answer any questions you may have, go over some assignments so you can, once you're actually preparing or prepping for an actual assignment, you can go back and look at the video and make sure that you have gotten everything that we've talked about, and then to talk about grading rubrics, how we grade, different things, or any questions you guys may have along the way, please stop me. So first of all, here's the course syllabus. And so you can find this on the home screen. You click home and it shows up. So then you have my phone number right here. You have my office hours. Now we have to post office hours, 4 hours a week, but I want you to know that I'm very flexible. So I do text. I do email back. Texting works really well for me. I've raised 3 boys who have taught me that at the drop of a hat, if I get a text message, I am to respond back right away. I think any of us with kids can vouch for that. So please feel free to text me. Just let me know who you are, and then I can get back to you as soon as possible. I am available on weekends. I do try to take Saturdays off, my 1 day off a week. So I'm in the discussion Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I try to take Saturdays off, and then I come back in Sunday and just kind of follow through and answer any questions you guys have, or see how students are answering each other and doing things like that. I believe someone else joined us. So Kazea, is that how you say your name? We'll wait until they can hear us okay. So once you can hear us okay, is it Kazea?
Yes, it is Kazea.
Awesome. So welcome. So I'm just looking at the home page, and what we're doing is we're just going through and talking about my office hours now. So please feel free at any time to text me, email me, let me know what's going on. Please don't wait till the last minute. If you are starting to prep for your assignment, like let's say Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and you have a question, please ask me then versus waiting till Sunday. Knowing that I try to take Saturdays off, Sundays just come back on and just kind of making sure everything's running okay and making sure students are not having any questions or anything like that. So I would ask that you text me or email me right away if you have any questions. Here's my email address. So the course description. So this is nutrition. And so we're going to talk about how we maintain our nutritional balance to support our growth and development and our patients and possibly restore their health. We are going to focus on identifying and caring for the nutritional needs of our diverse patient populations, of course, utilizing scientific and scholarly evidence. So I think we have some more students joining us. I see Kendall. Welcome, Kendall. And so as we look through the syllabus, sorry if the scrolling causes nausea. I apologize for that. I know those of us who might have car sickness, sometimes this is bothersome, so I apologize for that. So course learning outcomes. You can read here. I'm not going to read them for you, but course learning outcomes. So anytime you see an outcome that has a C and an O next to it is a course outcome, and then the P and the O is a program outcome. So what we try to do is tie our course outcomes back to our program outcomes so you can understand why you're doing what you're doing. We're not just asking you to do busy work. It all is tying back into the course or the program outcomes for accreditation. So anytime you have any questions about why I'm doing this type of assignment and this type of course, please feel free to ask me, and I will do the best I can to answer. So we do have some textbooks. We have the Nutritional Essentials for Nursing Practice by Dudek, and then we also have your APA manual. Now, I know APA was given to you way back when in Nursing 125, so please utilize that as we do our discussions and our papers. Everything that we do and everything we write about has to be in APA formatting. So if you don't have your book or you have misplaced it, another great resource that I use all the time, and I can show you here, is I will bring up the OWL at Purdue site. I utilize this. It's an online resource, and so Purdue Online Writing Lab, and it's APA style. They also have an MLA style, but we are utilizing APA. And so here is your in-text citations, the basics, the authors, your reference lists. The biggest thing that I can share with you is down here in the sample paper. So if you were to click on sample paper, the sample paper comes up, and this lets you know exactly how your paper should look. And so feel free to utilize this site at any time as you are doing your papers, your discussions, specifically for your in-discussion citations and your references. So please feel free to use the OWL at Purdue site as well. I use it all the time. So any questions about that, APA formatting? No questions from anybody? It's not foreign to you, right? When you hear APA, you're not like, oh my God, what is that?
No, it's not foreign. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's move down. So you've got some IT support. So if something happens in Canvas, like if you're taking your quizzes and it shuts off on you, feel free to call Canvas IT support. And then here's your EagleGate Provo College technical support here. And then if you're doing any type of Kaplan, which we're not in this course, here's the Kaplan support line. Here's your out-of-class learning activities and assignments. Late work. Now, I do need to visit with you about late work. So quizzes cannot be turned in late. Assignments, however, you can turn in late. You will be deducted 10% per day for each day it's late. So it's due 11:59 Sunday night, and you turn it in at 12:01 or 1200, that is considered late. So be aware of your time frame. I can only accept 3 days lateness. So Monday's 1 day, Tuesday's 1 day, Wednesday is 1 day. And so regarding that third day, you'll get 30% deducted off of your total points. So try to prepare on time, try to turn it in on time. There is no penalty for turning it in early. So anytime you want to get started on assignments and get those done and turned in, feel free to do that. Any questions about late work?
No.
Okay, so again, quizzes, you cannot turn in late. Discussion questions, you cannot turn in late. Assignments, you can turn in late, up to 3 days. Attendance. So attendance-wise, we take attendance on Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. So Thursday morning, we do attendance for your participation in Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And then you are to come back in on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and we take attendance Monday morning for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So realistically, you need to be in the course 2 days a week within your discussions, within your assignments, things like that. But just remember, though, that you might be in on Monday and you might think you're done for the week. Please feel free to come back in at least once on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And you'll know, for those of you who have had me in the past as an instructor, when I go in and I read your discussions, I like to ask questions. And so I would hope that you would come back in throughout the week and find your postings and find my questions and answer those questions and follow up. You don't have to, but it sure is nice for the dialogue. But make sure that you answer the primary discussion question by Wednesday at 11:59, and then you respond to at least 2 of your peers Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. The initial discussion, we would ask that you provide us with a reference within your discussions. Now, I know with week 1 discussions, I've seen some with references, some without. So when we grade this first week of discussions, if you've not added your reference, feel free to add a reference to your discussions. You can always go in and edit your discussions up until Sunday at 11:59. Yep.
Dr. B, so when we're replying to peers, do we need to go on 3 separate days, once for our initial response, and then on 2 separate days?
No.
For replies?
Great question. So make sure that your initial discussion is on its own day, and then go in on another day and do your 2 peer responses. You can do those on the same day.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So you need to be in twice a week, which I think we can do that. I know we're all busy. I know we're working. We have families. We have more than 1 class that we're taking. So just know that by Wednesday, you should have answered your initial discussion, and then save Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday for those 2 peer responses. So they can be on the same day, but not on the same day as your initial response to your discussions. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great question, Melissa. Alrighty, so we talk about civility and civility. So I would ask that you would be respectful of your peers, be respectful of your instructor, be respectful to yourself. Make sure that what you're asking questions and commenting on to your peers that it's civil. Please, no caps. That means you're yelling. So just be aware of that. And then as we move through, so here's the grading criteria. We need a 77% to pass the course, so make sure that we do that. So to break things down even further, we have 8 weeks of discussions. Now weeks 1 through 7, we have 2 discussions. Week 8, we have 1, which is awesome. Quizzes, we have quizzes weeks 1 through 7, 40 points apiece. Week 5, we have a holistic nutritional assessment, which we're going to go over. With 200 points. So it's quite 20% of your grade. And then week 7, we have a nutritional health plan worth 145 points. So we'll go over those total. So points would be 1,000 points for the whole class. Here's your discussion grading rubric. So if you're wanting to know why I missed points or why you missed points, please feel free to look at the grading rubric. Also within the discussions, you can also find your feedback, and we will talk about how to find feedback that we as instructors have given you. So to earn 5 points on participation, you have to answer the threaded discussion question or topic on one day, no later than Wednesday, and post 2 responses to student peers on other days. So by Wednesday, have your main discussion done. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, have at least 2 of your peer responses done. Here's your course outline. So you've got week 1, course outcomes, key concepts, and then your reading material, and then any assignments that you have done. So week 1, which is what we're on, you have your graded discussion questions, which are 2 of them, and then quiz 1, and those all have to be done by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Remember that quizzes cannot be done late. And then week 2, 3, 4, and we'll go more into depth on these. And so this is on your homepage, the syllabus. So feel free to look at my office hours. Here's my phone, text me, or my email. Go ahead and email me. Let's go into your announcements. Now this section is very important. This section here is where you will find major announcements that we put into your course. And so if you look down here, you've got my information here. You've got a welcome section here. And then you've got welcome to week 1. And so this is where we welcome you to week 1. We give you an idea of what's expected of you during each week. And so it's pretty easy to read, pretty organized. So let's go back out to announcements. And then the other ones that I've added for this week will be on attendance reminder that we just talked about. So click into that. And then here's your course overview conference. And then anything that we talked about for the 4th of July, your attendance for the 4th of July. So this is where you will find the recording that is done of this conference. So it'll say course overview conference recording, and then click on that and it'll have the link to the recording. So those of you who are here, please let your friends and your classmates know that if they're wondering where that recording is, it's in their announcements section. So please look here daily. Don't ask any questions within this section. There's another section to answer questions, but please feel free to look at your announcements daily. This is a very important section. Any questions about your announcements? All right. Don't use chat very often. You can click on here, and this is where we can get in and do some chatting, one person online. I don't use this very much, but if you want to chat within the course, feel free to email me or text me a time, and I'll make sure I'm in the course, and then you can ask me any questions. You can do it that way. I don't know that very many students. Have you guys ever used this section of Canvas at all?
No.
Pardon? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right, so conferences, this is where sometimes you'll have like a big blue conference, a big blue button conference, so to speak. This is where I would go in and I would put in a new conference, and then you click on the blue button and it brings the conference up. The thing with this one is the video recording or the recording of the conference is only good for 2 weeks. And so I try not to use it very often because students might not, they might not look at the video recording for the first 4 or 5 weeks. And I want them to have access to the video all throughout their course. So I don't use this very often. So I apologize for that. If you do see that I'm using it, you'll notice it in the announcement section. I might use it again as we get closer to like week 5 to talk about the assignment again, but we are not, what I have found on why I don't use this is I can't share my screen, and I want to share my screen. I want you guys to know what I'm talking about for the visual learners. Auditory it works well for, but visual learners it doesn't, and so that's why I just don't use it. You click on discussions. Here's where you will have all of your links to discussions, the ones that are pinned. My computer. So here's any questions to the instructor. So at any time, if you have questions for me, please ask them within this area, because students can look at this area and your question, they may have the same question, and I may answer your question here, and that allows them to have me answer their question as well, if that makes sense. And so any questions you have along the way, please feel free to use this area. There's that. And we'll go back to discussions. Eaglegate Cafe is where you go in, and this is where we are doing our introductions. So I think most of you have been in. There are some I've not seen introductions from before. So make sure that if you've not introduced yourself within the Eaglegate Cafe. And then here is where module 1, discussion 1 and 2 are. And then as the weeks become evident, so on Fridays, you'll notice that on Fridays is where I go in and I will do a discussion summary for each discussion question we have. Then I'll also make next week discussions available. So I will move discussion 2 up here. And pin it, and that means you have access to answering those. If you want to answer early, feel free to. On Friday is when you'll see those come up on your pin discussion areas. Even though they're there, they're not due until the following Sunday. That's just what we do on Fridays. Let's go into modules here. I want to talk about modules for a minute. So here are course tools. Here is where you can also go into questions for your instructor. Here is where if you need a brief updating seminar on APAs, APA sample or PowerPoint, feel free to look into that. If you click into there, you will see an APA sample paper. And this is where you can access any of your APA videos that you can find on your homepage. So are you guys, Kazea, Kindle, Melissa, and Teresa, are you on your computer or are you on your phones?
I'm on my computer.
Okay. Everybody on their computer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because if you were on your phone, you may not be able to see what I'm talking about, and it might cause a little frustration, so I apologize for that. But when we log into the GoToMeetings, if you can log in on your computer, because then when the instructor is sharing their screens, you can visually see these. All right. Let me go back to modules. So week 1, here is your checklist and objectives, so you can click into that and see what do I have to do this week? Oh, I have to post my introduction. I forgot to do that. I better go do that. I have to read the objectives. I want to look at the lecture. I need to complete the reading. Here's your discussion postings. And then I have a quiz this week. So here's where you can look at your checklist. If you are a checkoff person, go ahead and print this off, have it next to you, complete each one and mark it off. Some students don't need to do that, but I know when I was going to school, checklists worked really well for me, so I didn't forget something. Let's go back to modules. So here is a PDF that will help you, that will augment your lecture, that will also help you with your discussions this week. And then here is where you find your lecture and readings. So here, this talks about, we are going over chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your textbook. And then here is your lecture for this week. And then, so, sorry, just mute. If you can mute yourself, that would be great. Okay. So then any blue links means that they're open links, and so you can go ahead and that'll bring you outside to an external link to help you watch this video. And then go through, I know I'm scrolling fast, sorry about that. This actually comes from your book, which is very well done, and this will help us when we get into our first major assignment. Here's the references. And so if you are, and this is just a quick tip, if you are going to reference, we need to do a reference within our main discussion post. And so why not use your book? This is great. You don't have to go out and find a new resource. Go ahead and use your book. And this is how, in APA formatting, you would reference it. So could you copy and paste it into your discussion as a reference? Yes, you can. This is appropriate APA formatting. It's already been done. Don't reinvent the wheel. Or if you want to go out and find this reference right here, this is how you would reference the Gebhardt and Thomas. If you wanted to go find this book, Advanced Human Nutrition, this is how you would reference that. And so a lot of times I ask students, utilize your textbook. Here is how you reference your textbook. So it's already been done for you. There's really no reason why you cannot reference your book in APA formatting. It's done right here for you. Copy and paste. So make sure that when you are doing your discussions, your main response, that you are utilizing a resource, and then make sure and cite appropriately. Okay. So there is your lecture for the week. So let's go back into modules. So for this week, we have a quiz due, and it's due by July 8th. It's worth 40 points. You have 2 attempts. So make sure that you learn from the first attempt and then go ahead and take it again. You'll have one of these each week. So then let's dive into week 2. So here's your checklist and objectives. So let's look to see what you have to do next week. A quiz. That's your main thing for next week. So the same again, 2 discussion questions and a quiz for next week. Let's look at modules again. Week 3, same thing. Here's your checklist. Here's your lecture and readings, discussion 1 and 2, and then a quiz. Week 4, your checklist objectives. Here's your lecture, discussion 1, 2, and a quiz. So let's look at week 5. Now week 5, it looks like, I have something else in there. So module 5, this is where you have a major assignment due, is week 5. Granted, it's halfway through the course. Don't forget, you can prepare early. This is a very detailed table that we want you to fill in. So before I dive into that, I am going to pause for 1 second and plug my computer in. So please bear with me. I will mute and I will come right back. Give me 2 seconds, okay? Give me 2 seconds. All right, I am back. So that was poor planning on my part. I apologize for that. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so let's look at week 5. And so we've got 2 main discussions. We've got a quiz. Now let's look at our module 5 assignment documents. We're 200 points, so due August 5th. So let's click in here. And this brings up what is expected of us. And so they put here, if you've not taken Nursing 131, you'll need to contact your instructor for help with nursing diagnoses. Any of you that are with us today, have you all taken 131?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So if you've not taken 131, please let me know ahead of time and I can help you with some nursing diagnoses. So if you were to click on this first link, Table 5, or Week 5 Table, Holistic Nutritional Assessment, let's see what comes up. This brings up a table, and what we want you to do is we want you to fill this table in. So you can download it and save it. It's a Word document, and then go ahead and type in your answers and then upload it. And so with the holistic nutritional assessment, here's the table. Now I'm going to minimize this because I want you to look at this other link here. So here is the actual instructions. So it is worth 200 points or 20% of your total grade. And what we want you to do is we want you to perform a thorough nutritional assessment, including each one of these areas. And each one of these areas is labeled in that table. And then we want you to utilize at least 2 scholarly resources to support your interpretation of your findings and nursing diagnosis with outcome goals. There is a rubric, so I would ask any time that you have an assignment that has a rubric, please look at that rubric and make sure that everything that you have done is talked about in the rubric. And so here is your rubric. So, and this will make more sense as I can pull up an assignment, which I have an assignment. I'll go ahead and pull up one from last semester that was very well done. And so here is your age and growth and development stage. 10 points. So if you did not talk about age and growth and development, over here, assessment element not addressed. So you'd have anywhere from 5 points to 0 points. Now for me, I try not to give you 0 points. If you missed it, I'll give you 5 points. I don't know how to distinguish between 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So I will give you 5 points if you didn't address it. But you really want 10 points. And so make sure that you do every section possible. If you got 7 points, that tells me that you were pretty generic, that you weren't specific, and some of the elements were missing. So let's say you didn't include your age, you might get 7 points. And so look through your grading criteria and make sure that you've hit every aspect. So on the anthropometric, make sure you have your patient's height, your weight, BMI, and then any recent weight changes. Now, if there hasn't been any recent weight changes, please say that, because then I know that you looked at that and you'll get the full 10 points. And then if you look through your rubric, here is your biochemical and medication. So we want you to list any lab information. No tests are required, but if they're available, let's say your patient just had a checkup at the clinic and they were able to provide you with a few lab results that they had, go ahead and list those. And then we also want you to provide any prescription or over-the-counter medications. Here are your clinical, your dietary data. Here is your 24-hour diet recall, any allergies, supplements, patient concerns about food and nutrition, who is preparing their foods for them, any alcohol consumption, anything related to any economics related to food intake. So are they homeless? Do they live on a budget? Are they senior citizens and they live on a budget? Are you a nursing student and you live on a budget? Those are all economics related to your food intake. And then any psychological factors affecting nutrition, any medical factors, any social factors. So this is where the culture comes in, any religion, any barriers, any knowledge base. So maybe they, let's see, a knowledge base would be maybe a knowledge deficit regarding their diabetes. Maybe they are not choosing the correct diet and they have diabetes and it's not being controlled. This is where you can talk about that within this section. And then once you have all your data gathered, we want you to talk about or create or develop a nursing diagnosis. So we want you to have 2 nursing diagnoses, each of those with outcomes and goals. And then we want you to have at least 2 scholarly resources. And so here to get full 10 points, you need to have APA format. You need to have minimum of 2 scholarly resources. I say minimum because more than likely you guys will usually use anywhere between 3 and 5, but you only need to have 2. And then we talk about rules of grammar. So are you writing in complete sentences? Are you using, is your spelling okay? And then this is where if you have 1 to 2, you get 8 points, 3 to 4, you get 7 points, and so on. So let's look at a example. Let me see. So this is an example of a completed holistic nutritional assessment. So here's your age and growth and development and developmental stage. So here's your findings. So your patient, you can choose whatever patient you want. You can choose your family, you can choose your friends, you can choose maybe somebody that you're taking care of on clinical. You can use your child, your mother, any questions about how you find your patient for this assignment? Any questions? Okay, awesome. So make sure now, even though this is not due until week 5, start thinking about who you might want to interview. Your husband, your partner, your spouse, anybody you want to use. Try to find someone that might have a disease process going on, find someone that might have some meds on board, just so you can fill in your table. So this person or this student used a 75-year-old female. And then growth and development stage is ego, integrity versus despair. You can find this in your book, or you can find it in any of the growth and development books. You can find it within your LIRN, and we will definitely go over how to feel comfortable using your library within EagleGate when we're done with this. So you let me know you're using a 75-year-old female who is in the ego, integrity versus despair growth and development stage. So you've hit both of those. But now this column needs to be filled out. This is where you will do the majority of your work. This is your interpretation of data. So what does it mean when you have a 75-year-old female? So this student said, patients are more in despair portion of Erickson's developmental stage. Patient has lived her life with a diagnosis of depression. Patient is not satisfied with her life's journey. Patient often talks about how life will be better for others once she passed away. And then this is where they went more into depth with the Erickson stage of ego, integrity versus despair. And this is where you will probably, hopefully, have your first citation. And so they utilize McLeod 2017, paragraph 51 to 52. So whatever resource you are wanting to utilize to help you with that growth and development, feel free to use it there. And this this is probably the first time that you will cite your reference, because I know this just doesn't come off the top of your head. You're going to have to research it a little bit and find out, well, what growth and development stage is this patient in, depending on what age you're wanting to use. 5-year-old, of course, is in their own developmental stage compared to a 75-year-old, so make sure that you talk about that. The next one on here would be the anthrometric, and so make sure you include their height. So then what I look at is, yep, there's their height, weight, yep, BMI, okay, and then recent weight changes. No recent weight changes. Perfect. Exactly like that. But what does that mean to you? What does that weight mean to you? What does that BMI mean to you? So here is where they talked about, according to the World Health Organization, patient's BMI classifies her as pre-obese. However, according to the World Health Organization, BMI values are age dependent, blah, 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 and this came from paragraph 2. So that's her second scholarly citation. So you see how that's going. And so this first column is going to be pretty straightforward, but then this second column here, the interpretation column, is where students really miss their points. So make sure that you have no white space, and that's what I tell students. This is going to be more than just one sentence. This is your critical thinking. What does this mean to you? You have sought out research, and this is what it means to you, because in the clinical world, when you are taking care of patients and you're very focused on your diagnosis of COPD, but what is their nutritional status? How old are they? What comes into play with their dietary or nutritional needs? And that's the outcome of this assignment. It lets you really individualize and put this person into perspective according to their nutritional needs, because we all know that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, our nutrition is very important, and how we're going to heal. And so this interpretive data should be very well filled out. If you are giving me one-line sentences or one-line interpretation data, that really won't get you a very good grade, because that doesn't show me that you are understanding of what this interpretation of that assessment data means. So as we move through here, another example would be the biochemical and medication. So here it's asking you to list any lab information available. Whoa, I've got some lab work. This is awesome. And let's say it was last year. Go ahead and use it. If they've got lab work, if they don't, all you have to say is no recent lab work. But make sure that you let me know that, so I know that you addressed it. Let's include both prescription and over-the-counter drugs. So they're on Zoloft 100 milligrams daily, and that's it. So what does this mean to you? They're on Zoloft, plus they've got a little bit of abnormal lab work. They've got a high creatinine, but how old are they? They're 75. So what does that mean to you? A B12 is low. Well, they're 75. What does that mean to you? So when we're talking about an elderly patient, this really does come into play. Let's see, looks like we're just glomerular filtration rate and then creatinine. So what is this? So patient takes an SSRI for depression. That's what Zoloft is, and that lets me know that you know exactly what that is. Patient has taken this medication for over 40 years. Patient notices more effect taking Zoloft versus Paxil, Lexapro, Prozac, or Wellbutrin. So that might have been one of those questions that you were asking. Did you always start off on Zoloft, or were you on any other antidepressant or SSRI for your depression? And then the following is an explanation to what her abnormal lab values mean. So they've talked about an increased level of blood chloride, elevated creatinine, of course, comes into play when you have elderly. And then this is their third and fourth in-text citation of their reference. So you can see where this was very well done, that interpretive data. Next, they went even down more to talk about metabolism, because you have an elderly patient. And this is all information you can find out in your textbook. So clinical, physical signs and symptoms of malnutrition. Well, what did they tell you? Lack of interest in food or drink. They tired, easy, fatigue, inability to concentrate. They always feel cold. They get sick and take longer time to heal than in the past. So what does this mean to you? Well, they're at a current risk for malnutrition related to these symptoms. However, unknown how much is related to malnutrition versus age versus mental health versus lack of physical fitness, which I think is very well done here because of her age status. Then you've got your dietary data. Now we say we want you to go back to look at page 9 of your text. If you do not have your text handy, which you should, but in any case, if you don't have your text handy, once we get out of this Word document, there is a link to what you can find from page 9 that I'll show you. So here's where more of that data that she gets from the patient. She talks about no current illness, eats less than 2 meals a day, wears dentures, which, okay, that's gonna be very useful knowledge. Finances are strained. Strained, yep. Eats more meals and snacks alone. Takes 1 prescribed medication, but recently began taking 500 micrograms of vitamin B12 daily, which is good because her B12 was low. Has maintained current weight, and then this is that interpretive data. So, history of gastric bypass, that comes into play right here, which is great because her vitamin B12 is low. So that makes perfect sense. So you can see where this person was very well into filling out every aspect of this table. That interpretive data, they talked a lot about their interpretation. What does this mean to them? And this is what we are looking for. We are not looking for one-liners. And I keep saying that because I will get it. I will get those. I've received these tables before where there's been nothing added into that interpretive data section, and that is all about your critical thinking. That is really what we are looking for. So please feel free to add depth. You will get a better grade if you add depth. Dietary 24-hour diet recall, and then what does that mean to you? Allergies, no known drug allergies, no known allergies. Even though they have no allergies, you still have to say, well, what does that interpret to you? No drugs, seasonal or environmental allergies. Patient does complain of sensitivity to some narcotics as they make her dizzy or nauseated. Perfectly well done. So even though they may not be on any meds, please talk about what does that interpret to you. Write something in that box. Supplements, again, here's the vitamin B12 that they added. Patient's own concerns about food and nutrition. This is what she says, and this is what you are interpreting that as. Who's preparing their food? The patient or the workers at any fast food restaurants that she may frequent are the primary food preparers for this household. Well, that's a concern for me if she's going on fast food all the time. Does the patient cook their own food? Does their spouse cook the food? Does if they're in a nursing home, does the nursing home kitchen workers prepare their food? And what do those menus look like? And then that interpretive data, she did very well with this one right here. And this is all taken from foodsafety.gov. Alcohol consumption, none. Okay, but what does that mean to you? Patient does not consume alcohol, no nutritional risk in this area. So that's going to be a one-liner. And I know it will because she doesn't consume alcohol. But let's say your patient consumed 3 to 5 beers a week. Well, what does that do to an elderly patient? What does that mean to you? You're going to have to research alcohol consumption in elderly, could be some keywords, to interpret that data. And then economics related to food intake. Patient is elderly and lives on a fixed budget. Well, what does that mean to you? And that's all your research. That's what you're going to find out in your research. Psychological factors, depression, mild dementia, what does that mean to you? Medical factors, history of gastric bypass in 1981, which is very, very important, and then talk about bariatric surgery. Social factors, lack of interest, lack of motivation. She is depressed, she is elderly. What does that mean to you? So with all this data, this student could say, my priority nursing diagnosis would be imbalanced nutrition, less than body requirements related to intake of nutrients, insufficient to meet metabolic needs. You will get this from your book. If you have to venture out and use any of the nursing diagnosis books that you have had that you have currently, or if a friend has a nursing diagnosis book, or there are some online sites that will give you some nursing diagnoses according to the symptoms that you put in. So what is this? What are the outcomes? So this is the outcomes and the goals. And then nursing diagnosis number 2 would be sedentary lifestyle related to insufficient motivation for physical activity. Now what I look at is when I'm grading these, I'm going to look at, let's look at sedentary lifestyle related to insufficient motivation for physical activity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look back and see if this was talked about. And actually it was talked about a lot throughout her table that she filled out. Let's say you had a nursing diagnosis that talked about knowledge deficit related to diabetic diet or something. And I looked up here and there was nothing that said she was a diabetic, nothing that talked about her nutrition being a diabetic. I would really ask you where that came from. And this is where you might have some points taken off. So your nursing diagnoses all come from the data that you have supplied within that table. And then here are your references. So this is where they listed all their references that they used. And you see your minimum of 2, but this person used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 references. So this is a very well done table that's filled in. So with that being said, I know you might feel overwhelmed. I want to know if you have any questions regarding this assignment. Anybody that's with us today?
I know that in some of our other classes we've had like an outline that we could follow. Give us help with formatting the paper.
Well, this one is not an actual paper. It is just filling in that table. So this is not a paper.
Do we have the table?
We do. It's right here. So if this first link right here that I'm looking at, you click on that, and that will download. And here's your blank table.
Perfect.
So then what you're going to do is you're going to download that and you're going to type in it and you're going to save it. And then that's what you are going to upload into the actual assignment section. And so make sure that you download it. Make sure you fill it in. And as you fill this in, because it's a Word document, I know these spaces aren't very big, but they will get bigger as you're typing, if that makes sense. You can see that this is a 1-page table or 2-page table, but I think that last example was like 6 pages long. So this is not a paper, but a fill in the blank, so to speak, table. So if that helps you. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So the APA will come in when you are citing your references. So I will grade you on APA according to your reference list, how those are referenced, and then your in-text citations. Mainly, always, 100% are going to be in this interpretation section of your paper right here. So if we were to go back out, here's your table. Here is your actual assignment that has your grading rubric in it. So download that, print it out if you need to, but here's what it looks like. Here's your instructions. Choose an individual to assess. Utilize the table. Perform your history, physical assessment, lab data thoroughly, interpret, include at least one outcome for each diagnosis, support 6th edition, and then even further down talks about how many points you will get for each section, 10 points. So if you completely forget a section, you're going to miss 10 points right off the top, and we don't want to do that. And so there are 3 different things to click on. Here is the blank table that you can download. Here is the actual assignment instructions. And now you are saying, well, I don't have access to my textbook for some reason, which I know happens. Here are the page 9 questions that we are referring to within those instructions. So you download those. So within that 24-hour diet recall, How many meals and snacks do you eat? These will help you answer, these will help you ask questions. Do you have any food allergies or intolerances? What type of vitamins, mineral, herbals, other supplements do you use and why? What concerns do you have about how or what you eat? And then for acutely ill patients, who prepares your meals? Do you have enough food to eat? How much alcohol do you consume? These are the questions that are taken from page 9 of your book. So there are 3 different things that will help you complete this assignment right here. Top one is the blank table that you're going to download, type in, and then upload. This second one is the actual instructions with the grading rubric. And then here are some other questions to help you. Okay.
Okay,
if you want to look at the grading rubric even further, this is what I click on when you've uploaded your assignment and I'm grading them. I click on the rubric and this comes up. So if you've talked about age, growth, and development and your interpretive data is very well done, bang, 10 points. The next one, bang, 10 points. And I go all the way through and then it equals 200 points. So this is the grading rubric that you will see that I will use. And then you've also got your own grading rubric there. Okay. So everything that you need to complete Module 5 assignment document-wise is within your module. So if we go back to modules, these are, excuse me. So these are your modules. So this is what we're talking about. Module 5 assignment documents, click on that. That brings up everything that you need. Okay, 200 points. What this means submitting a file upload is you're going to have to upload your assignment once it's complete. So any questions about your Module 5 assignment? Okay. So don't wait until the last minute to try to figure out who you're going to assess. Start thinking about it now. I mean, you guys are in clinicals. If you find that you have an awesome patient in clinical for another class, can you utilize that patient for this assignment? Yes, you can. Start taking notes. Start asking those questions that will help you fill in your table. Print out your table, bring it to clinical with you. But just let your professor know that, hey, I have a nutritional assessment assignment due in my nutrition class, and I'm wanting to use the information from my patient to help me do this. Just let them know that that's what you're doing, because they may question, why you have this table and this blank piece of paper and what have you. So if you want to use an actual clinical patient, if you want to use a parent, a spouse, a child, can you use yourself? What are your thoughts about that? If you have a disease process going on, or you just have something going on and you're thinking about utilizing yourself, what do you guys think about that? Anybody? I don't know that I would want to utilize myself because I am not able to. One of the outcomes of this is we want you to be able to ask those questions comfortably, and we can always talk to ourselves and ask ourselves those questions, but we want you to be able to ask those questions of another person. So I would not utilize myself. I know it's been done in the past, but we want you to be able to dive out and ask those clinical questions to your patient, if that makes sense. And then week 5, you also have a quiz. So week 5, you're going to be pretty busy. You've got 2 discussion questions. You've got this major assignment due plus quiz 5. So start early on this assignment. If you run into trouble, let me know early so I can help you. Sundays are tough. If you wait until Sunday at 9 o'clock and you say, well, I don't know where to find the table to fill out, I may not be available at 9 at night on a Sunday. And so make sure that you start early. Make sure that you know exactly where your documents are that you need. Prepare effectively. Early preparation really does wonders. And then, so now let's move on to week 6. Well, what do I have in week 6? I've got checklists, I've got a PDF file, I've got my lecture, my readings, 2 discussion questions, and a quiz. No different than any other week. Well, what is this end of course survey? What happens here is every course, and I'm sure that you guys have had plenty of experience with your end of course surveys. These are surveys that we ask students to fill out so we can improve our courses. What went well, what didn't go well. Also, let us know what went well with your instructors. Was your instructor accessible? Did your instructor help you throughout your course? Things like that. The end of course survey becomes available in between weeks 6 and 7. If you can take a little bit of time, it doesn't take a lot of time to complete the survey. If you can complete the survey when you see the link that's available here, please do that. If you want to complete week 7 first, go ahead and do that. But you can see week 8. So the week 8, you will not be able to look at anything that's within week 8 if you have not done the end of course survey. So you can see here, prerequisite, end of course survey. I've had students tell me on Monday morning of week 8 that they cannot get into their week 8 discussion question, and that is because you've not done the end of course survey. Very easily remedied. Go back up and do the survey, and then that week 8 opens up. So when you see that end of course survey link being made available to you, it'll be made available to you within your announcement section. And then as an instructor, we pull that link and I will email it to you as well. But look at your announcement section and go ahead and complete that end of course survey. So week 7, it looks like we've got 2 discussion questions. I've got a quiz. Oh, but let's look at this assignment. So you click on that and then you have a link. So let's click on this link. What does that say? It's going to download. You open it up. All right, so let me make this bigger. So this is a paper. So this is worth 145 points or 14.5% of your overall grade. We're asking you to choose an area of interest from the following topics. So any type of cancer, cardiovascular disease, celiac disease, diabetes, HIV, kidney disorder. Now, what I can tell you here is if you are really passionate about a disease area and you want to write about it, all you have to do is say, hey, Dr. Mady or Sheila, can I write about what would be a disease that I've had in the past? Well, that's a kidney disorder. Let's say you've got, well, that's a cancer. I was going to say, let's say you've got a seizure disorder. You've got you've got a family member or yourself has a seizure disorder and you want to know more about it. You want to write about it. All you have to do is ask me. Say, hey, I've got this friend who has this disease process going on and I'm really passionate about it. I really want to write about it. Would that be okay? More than likely, yes, it will be okay. But I need to know that what you're writing about, because then that helps me prep for my grading, if that makes sense. So these are just some ideas if you are limited in your clinicals or you're limited on, hey, I just don't know what to write about. What do you think? These are some ideas. Are we flexible? I myself am flexible. So if you've got something else going on or you've got a family member that has something that you want to write about, please reach out, let me know. Probably 100% sure that I will find that it's okay for you to do. So what we're wanting you to do is we're wanting you to present your identified disorder or disease and discuss the need for nutritional support. Due by Sunday of week 7 by 11:59 p.m. Course outcomes, instructions. So this is a paper, must contain a title and a reference page in APA 6th edition format. So if you are utilizing your APA book, you'll notice that parts of a paper would be an abstract. I do not need an abstract. if you were to go to this Purdue Online right here and look at that sample paper, you can see that this is the title page. This is what your title page should look like. They've got an abstract. I do not need an abstract. Please don't worry about doing an abstract. So then you will start on page 2 instead of page 3. Here's your running head. Here's your title. And then start talking about whatever you're going to talk about. Okay? So then here is where you'll dive even further. And it says choose a topic. So you've already got your topic. You can already start thinking about your topic now and get approval if you want to diverge from what's listed here. We are going to, for parts of your paper, I'm going to come down here to your grading rubric. So parts of your paper. So first of all, you're going to introduce us to the disease and summarize nutritional needs and recommendations. This is worth 25 points. So each one of these areas on your grading rubric, if you can think about organizing your paper this way. So you've got a title page. The next page should be your identification of the disease. So you are going to want to do level 1 headings on your paper. And what I mean by this is, let me bring up an example. So here is an example of a paper that was done on bariatric patient. They had a patient that had bariatric surgery, and you can tell that that wasn't on that list. It's okay. It's okay. So here is your running head. Here's your page number. This is the title. And of course, I've removed the student's name, but you would have your name and then who you're writing for, Nutrition 310. You can see on page 2, they don't have an abstract, which we don't need. So then what this student did is make sure that you bring down the title from your title page and center it. So then this student starts talking about obesity, going on down about bariatric surgery. So 3 elements of a dietary assessment. Why is that bolded and centered? Because that is a level 1 heading. So if you were to go back to, let me see, I have to bring it up again. Sorry about that. So if you were to go back to your paper and look at your grading rubric, discuss at least 3 elements of a dietary assessment. Every time you have a section due on a paper, if you can make it look like this, bolded, centered, that is a level heading. Anytime you have anything that's due on our grading rubric, one section, go ahead and do it that way because that's what we are looking for. That makes my eyes go to that section alone. And so the student talks about that. Well, what is the next section? Nutritional therapy or therapeutic diet. So let me look. We've got nutritional therapy. Discuss at least 3 elements of a dietary assessment along with your nutritional therapy. So you can see where the student did that. So let me go back here. So they've incorporated that section into this section, which is great. So then they've talked about that. They've given a 3-day menu example, which is great, adds more depth. So now they want to talk about patient or family or caregiver teaching. This is what you would talk about in your teaching plan. Then they've got local and national nutritional support. So let me look at nutritional intervention support available. So this is where they talk about support from the family, from the caregiver, what's available locally. And so you go back here, local and national nutritional support. So you can see where each part of that grading rubric became a section of their paper. And that is a great way to do it. You guys are at this level will only write in level 1 headings, which is always centered and bolded, upper and lowercase. So try to organize your paper in that way. What it does is it helps you so you don't forget any part of the grading rubric. So for me, when I start writing, I'm going to start at the top of my rubric and I'm going to write down, identify the disease or disorder. So that might be my level 1 heading. The next level 1 heading is 3 elements of a dietary assessment. My next heading might be my nutritional intervention. The next heading would be 3 expected patient outcomes. You see where that comes from? Let's see what they did. 3 expected patient outcomes. So let's go on down. Here's their 3 expected patient outcomes as a result of the following the nutritional plan of care. So then here's 1, 2, 3. You see 3 different paragraphs. And then they have their reference page. And with this student, it looks like this reference page is not appropriate for APA. I would take off just because. Can anybody look at this reference page right offhand? And what is the main, what is one of the main, well, what is one of the main problems with this reference page? Anybody can tell?
The second line's not indented for each reference.
Right. And so that hanging indent is just the opposite of what it should be. So in actuality, Bailey should be flush left with this second line indented, and Dudek should be flush left with this second line indented. So it was just the opposite. Even though they did that with every single reference, that would just be 1 point off. I'm not taking points off for every single time they've done it because it's the same thing that they've done wrong. So make sure that you are using your APA manual or your Owlet Purdue site to make sure that you've got your APA done well. Okay. So I've gotten some chats here. Do you want us to just email to ask about our topic, or can we do it tonight? Feel free. Let's talk about any topics that you might have on the top of your head right now, or you can email me or text me, whatever works well for you, Kendall. What are you thinking?
I know they're totally opposite, but ovarian cancer or eczema, because those both like run in my family.
Either one. Either one. Feel free to write on either one.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. Well done. MS, Teresa, yes. Please feel free to write on MS. Very well done. Yep. And it's not alphabetized because they are right. Good job. The reference list, let's see. We've got BD. L. Yeah, they've got some. The problem with the references here is you've got like in Harmon's retrieved from harmonygrocery.com classes. Well, I don't know that that is scholarly. So what I could say about this one is I would ask them, who is your author? Because you've got to have an author. And then it looks like they're using a lot of websites. What I can tell you about websites is if you are utilizing Google and you're not utilizing the library, this becomes a problem. Google Scholar is different than Google. So with Google Scholar, most of your articles will have authors. So the problem with websites is if you, let's pull up this website. Let me see if I may not be able to copy. Let me copy that and let me bring up another page. I'm just going to show you an idea of what I do when so, no thanks. So what do you think about this website? Is it scholarly?
No.
No.
It's it's a business
Right.
webpage.
Yep. So this would not be a scholarly reference. So one thing when you utilize websites, if they have advertisements throughout the web page, it is not scholarly. And so you can see here that there are some different websites. you know, get these things right here tell you a little bit that it's not scholarly. So really, really be careful of those websites that you want to use. What would be, I'm just trying to think. Any of the .com websites that you use. .com really is not scholarly. Usually if you want to use a web page, make sure it ends in .gov, like the CDC, or .org. Try
Or
to
.edu.
.edu, you're correct. You're correct. If you pull up a website and it has pop-ups where there's advertisements, that is not a scholarly source. So don't use it. So one other thing I wanted to talk about was the LIRN for scholarly resources, which I can go over here real quick with you. So any other questions with this Module 7 assignment? Start on it early. Get an idea of what you might want to write on and start writing. For me, when I was a undergrad student, but more so in my doctoral studies, is I would start writing on day one and I would write just maybe a sentence here and a sentence there, because then when it's due, you have it done. And so you should never wait until the last minute to start a major assignment. When you sit down to write, your brain is in that writing mode. So write as much as your brain will allow you to do, and then take a little break, maybe a couple days off, and then come back to it, because you'll find errors that you can edit. You'll find even deeper knowledge as you prepare effectively. So please don't wait until the last minute to start these assignments, because your grade will reflect that. Okay. I know we're over on time. I just wanted to, so you've got, let's look at your modules again. So you've got a quiz each week. So quiz each week, discussion questions each week. Until you get to week 5, you've got an assignment, which is a table. Fill out the table, very in-depth. Week 6 quiz. Then you've got end of course survey. Week 7, you've got this major assignment. It's a paper, 145 points. So make sure that you have a title page, make sure you have a reference page, and then make sure that you have, so how many, let's see, let's bring this back up. How many pages does this paper have to be? Let me see. 3 to 5 pages. So, but this does not include your title page and your reference page. So the beefy part of your paper, the writing part of your paper, has to be 3 to 5 pages in length. So let's say you've written about MS and it's 4 pages in length. Then you add your title page to that and your reference page. So now you're at 4, 5, 6 pages. Perfect. Okay. So remember, the title page and the reference page does not count for the 3 to 5 pages in length. Okay, make sure that because I do look at the total pages, and if you've given me like 2 pages of data, I will have to take off because your paper wasn't in 3 to 5 pages in length. And so then right here, paper is short 1 page in length, probably 7 points out of 10. So you want to get as many points possible. So, okay. So look at the grading rubric, know where to find the grading rubrics. So let's get out of that one, don't save. Let's get out of this one. So now what I want to do is I want to do a quick tutorial on the LIRN. And so if you click on your pages link over here to the left, are you guys comfortable with utilizing the LIRN? Do you guys use it? Okay, yes, perfect. So I'm just going to do a quick tutorial. And so you click on your link, your pages link, and then you click on your LIRN. So then you're going to log in up here. And the 55799 is your password, the LIRN ID, submit. So then it brings up all your databases. We always want to go to your health and medical under subject view. You've got alphabet view, simple view, subject view, health and medical. Then under health and medical, you come up with all these. Well, what do you want to use? I personally like ProQuest because it does my APA formatting for me, which is really nice. So I go into ProQuest, brings ProQuest up. I'm going to make this bigger. So what would be some keywords that you might want to talk about? Somebody just give me a keyword off the bat. What would be a keyword that you want to put in here to find an article about it? Anybody? Diabetes. Let's put in diabetes. So So let's click on diabetes, and I know that there's going to be so many resources coming up, which is fine. But now I'm going to show you how we can filter through these. Come on, come on, come on. Well, I've got 3.3 million. Holy moly, Batman. So now what I do is I go to my peer reviewed. I limit to peer reviewed because we know that scholarly is peer reviewed. So I click on that and it takes me just a minute to filter through. Now I'm down to 648, which is amazing. So next I want under source type, I always click with the one with the little graduation hat next to it. That would be a scholarly journal. So I'm going to click on scholarly journal and it takes just a minute to come up. I'm down to 645, but you see where my filters are: peer-reviewed, scholarly. Now I want to take it even further and do my dates because I know that I need to stay within that 5-year mark. So if you start on the left here and you bring this way over here, 2010 to 2019 update, which I know that I'm going to have to do that again. So now let's go 5 years. So let's go to 2000, 5 years would be 2013. Okay, update. So now I'm down to 295,000 from 3.3 million. So now all of these articles will be scholarly because you see that graduation cap right there. And so now you just look through and find articles that you want to use for your paper or for any project. By that mean any of your discussions. You know, if you are looking at a topic for discussions this week, you can put in BMI and see what comes up for BMIs. But make sure that you filter, that you have a graduation cap icon because I'm so sorry about that. Then you know that each article that comes up is scholarly. So let's say we like this first one. So I'm going to click on this first one and it will come up. And you're like, yep, I really like it. Oh, but that's only an abstract. Well, that's not going to help me any. So let's go back because you want more than an abstract. Do you see where this one just says abstract? This one here, full text. So I'm going to use this one. And here would be your full text. You read it, you really, really like it, but now you're like, well, how am I going to cite this in APA format? If you look over here to the right under Cite, go ahead and click on that. And it shows you all these different ways to cite it, but you want to use APA 6th edition. Click on that, and it brings up how you would cite it in APA. So then what you do is you copy and paste. Simple as that. And what I would recommend is to utilize a like a Word document and copy and paste these into your Word document and then go ahead and alphabetize them and then copy and paste that into your reference page. And the other thing is what I would always recommend is any time that you pull up an article, no matter for what class, from here on out, click this download PDF and bring it up on your computer, download it and save it into a file. Because as you progress into your nursing education, everything, because you guys work hard to find these articles, and so you want to keep them. I remember before I started my master's program, I remember reading a really, really good article one time, and it took me over 20 hours to find it. And I knew I wanted to use it in my paper. And it was such a good article that I needed to really find it. And if I would have saved it when I found it, it would have alleviated a lot of time for myself. So any article that you download, save it to a file, and you can label the file Nutrition 310 Nutrition, or just scholarly articles, and just have a file with plenty and plenty and plenty of articles throughout it. Because as you progress into your nursing studies even more, maybe a discussion question will have to do with diabetes. You can go in and find a diabetes article, read it, find information, cite it, reference it, you're done. So what I would recommend is anytime that you find an article, save it to your computer, save it to a file so you can utilize it next time. So any questions about how to use the LIRN? It's very simple. This is in ProQuest, and it does the citations for you. We went through and we did the filters. Remember how you do the filters. And diabetes is very well known. So if we were to do something more specific, narrowed it down, you may only have like 8 articles to choose from versus maybe 295,000 when you first started. So utilize the filters section, peer-reviewed, scholarly journal, and then limit your research within the last 5 years. Any questions on the LARN at all? Thank you, Melissa, for that. Melissa's saying she starts her reference page working on it throughout writing the paper so she doesn't forget to put the reference in. You're right. And part of that double check would be every reference that you have on your reference page, I am going to make sure I find it within your paper. So if you've written your paper and you've proofread it and you're like, well, I really don't want to use that, and you take it out, make sure that you take it out of your reference list as well. Because everything that's in your reference list needs to be cited within your paper. Okay. I cannot stress enough that when I am grading papers and I look on your reference page and you have a web page, those are very hard for you to appropriately reference in APA formatting. A lot of times you guys forget the authors or you don't know who the author is. Really, really shy away from using the internet. Utilize the LIRN. I know it might be intimidating at first, but go ahead and utilize it, practice, play with it, apply your filters, and that really, it didn't take us very long at all to narrow down our 3.3 million down to 295,000. And then it's just up to you on what you are exactly looking at. Okay, so really, really try to use the LIRN. Google Scholar is fine. Just make sure that you know how to reference it appropriately when you're using it. I mean, more and more, I get websites referenced, and it's just so hard to give you full credit for that. Any questions with that? Okay. All right. So we have really limited out our time, and I'm so very sorry for going over. I appreciate your being here this evening with me. Anything that we didn't go over that you have questions about, because I can be here for as long as need be. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you reaching out and asking questions. Anything that we didn't talk about that you really need to know? Okay. So remember how to get a hold of me. Homepage, syllabus. Feel free to text me absolutely anytime. If I don't reply back to you, it probably means I'm in bed. More than likely, I am a night owl. And so I am up late, 3, 4 in the morning, you might get a grade on a paper and you're like, oh my gosh, but I am up early mornings. This is the awesomeness of working from home is you can be available at all hours, not just Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So please let me know how you're doing throughout the time. Email me, text me, um, call me. What I do sometimes, you'll notice it's called booking.com, and it's a site that I use, and I might send out a link asking you, hey, if we've got any questions, feel free to click on this link, look at my schedule, and pick a time that works for you, that I'm open, and we will have a discussion. I will call you on the phone, and we'll just talk about whatever you want to talk about. I am here for your success. I do not want you to be sitting in a classroom with colleagues not knowing how to do an assignment or overhearing something. Please call me and say, hey, I heard that we have to do this on our paper. Let me let you know. Talk to me about it. Don't turn in something and say, oh, well, I heard that we had to do it this way. Please reach out to me. I am here for you. Working online does limit our face-to-face with students, but coming from a university of 15 years of having classroom, I cherish my time with my students. And so even though you are a ways away from me, please contact me at any time and let me know what's going on. Let's see, can we turn assignments really early, like now, or do you want it? You can turn them in whenever you want. Feel free to turn them in. Feel free to turn them in whenever you want. You do not always have to just turn them in when they're due. Early assignments actually work best because knowing that once I see an assignment turned in, I will grade it. And so you can get a grade early. Or if I look at it and you are missing something, I might say, hey, I know it's not due until next week, but if you could really hone in on this area, you might do better. And then what you do is you resubmit it. You can submit as many times you want up until the due date. But yeah, you're right, Melissa, just not late. If for some reason you need an extension, those are very rare that we give out. But let's say you were in a car accident and you are not able to do it, that in it is an extenuating circumstance, and those are all individualized. So what I say with, let me know how you're doing, because if we know what's going on, then we're more likely to help you out. If it's Wednesday and the assignment was due Monday and you're 3 days late and you say, oh gosh, I don't know, I broke my leg 2 weeks ago and I've really been having a hard time. There's not much I can do at this time. But if I know when you break your leg, or if your child is sick or something comes up, let us know what's going on, because then we can work with your advisor and we can help you be successful. But right, if you turn it in late, right off the top, I've got to take 10% off, or 20%, or even 30%. So just know, if at all possible, it's always so much easier to start your assignments earlier than later. Okay. So anything else that we're missing? I know it's 7:34. I so appreciate your time on this Thursday night. Okay. So if there are no more questions, feel free. I will put this recording on your announcement section. So look for that within, probably by tomorrow, you'll have it on there. If you want to look through it or listen to it again and you come up with some questions, please email me, text me. Of course, let me know who you are when you text me. We can talk about them. If you need a one-on-one appointment, please reach out to me. We can talk like this over the phone, or even over something like this if you need a visual. Please let me know. So what I'll do if there's no more questions, I appreciate your time this evening. So I'm going to stop the recording, and then by tomorrow you should see a link to the recording. I would please ask you to let your classmates know, hey, I went to the meeting last night. I learned a lot, or I'm hoping you did. Let them know. You should probably really look at the recording and listen to it before you start your assignments, because there's really no excuse for you not to do well on assignments since we've had this in-depth of a course overview. And then I try to, closer to week 5, I'll try to do another one that talks just about the assignment. And I might do 5 and 7 together. So please look for that. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate it.